special guest. Angalia Bianca joins us in the Beatles Kingdom. Angelia is an author, raconteur, and all she's saying is give peace a chance, and she puts her money where her mouth is with that one. Welcome, Angelia.
Thank you. I'm really honored to be here.
We have a mutual friend who grew up in the same area as I did. She grew up, I believe, in Forest Hills, and I grew up in Queens in Richmond Hill, which is right over there. And she kind of put you in my path when she was giving me some guests to come on the show, and I'm so glad that she did. Could you tell us a little bit about our Gabba Gabba friend, Vera?
Yeah, yes, our wonderful mutual friend, Vera Ramon. And I love Vera, and I can say this wholeheartedly that I know a million people, but she's probably in a handful of maybe three people of my most trusted, cherished friends that I have. I met, just to go briefly, I met Vera once at a Ramones concert backstage when they played with the Pretenders in Chicago at the Aragon. Now, she wouldn't remember that because she met a million people, and it was just in passing. And then after I changed my life, somehow we connected and became, like, years ago, and became very good friends, where I've gone to Florida many times to visit her, and we talk all the time. And like I said, she's my trusted, like, family, where I share things with her that I don't share with anybody else. So I love her dearly. Thank you so much, Vera Ramon. And everybody go out and buy her book, Poison Heart.
Now, speaking of books, we have the magic of editing here. So, do you have your book handy that you could hold it up when I ask the next
I
question?
do. I actually do.
Okay, I was going to ask you, could you please tell us about that special book and when you decided to write it, what made you write it, and what makes it so special because it is?
So, okay, briefly, when I was young, like by say 21, I had already been through so much in my life, right? And like at the age of like 19, I was already married with a child and a widow. And so then people started saying to me, you should write a book, you should write a book. So in my delirium of drug addiction and rock and roll and all this crazy stuff, I would always, it ended up turning into kind of a joke where I'd go, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. And I said this over and over. And even like when I was in prison, like people would say, what are you going to do when you get old? Oh, I don't have to worry. I'm going to write a book, but never really knowing how to. Right. So one day came, I was at the Grammys, and I met Pamela DeBar, the famous from I'm with the Band book, and a good friend of mine. And through her, she came to Chicago one time and invited me to one of her workshops, which I went, and the host was Linda Beckstrom. And when I got there, I immediately connected with Linda and started talking with her, and we're both Italian. And then it turned out where I had a couple months later, had an extra ticket for another Grammys, invited Linda Beckstrom. She came with me, and just in our travels that week, I was constantly telling her stories and knew she was a professional writer. And then I was like, hey, you want to help me write my book? And it went from there. And so we were joined at the hip for 14 months. And this, through her writing and me telling her my stories and working together, we came with the book. We got published thanks to Carmine Appice, the legendary drummer, who hooked me up with his publisher, Chicago Review Press. We were published on October 1st of 2018. And in 2019, the book won 2019 Book of the Year, Traditional Nonfiction by Chicago Writers Association.
Can you hold the cover up again? Because we want our people, our listeners, to get a good look at it. And what is the in deep, and then what is the in brackets?
So it's okay. So it's the name is In Deep, and then the subtitle is How I Survived Gangs, Heroin, and Prison to Become a Chicago Violence Interrupter. It's available in Audible, Kindle, hard copy, on Amazon, also at the publisher website, and also in bookstores everywhere. So Barnes and Noble, Barbara's Bookstore. It's in all bookstores, libraries. You can go check it out if you want to. I just want to say it's a brutally honest book, and unapologetic. I don't blame anyone for my life. It's not like, oh, poor me. I just tell the story exactly how it happened. So a person, like, I take you by the hand and take you all the way deep into hell, and how far, how many of my morals was I willing to give up and lose because of my lifestyle choices, and then ultimately inspiring to climbing out of hell. People tell me it's a real page turner, and they cry, they laugh, they're horrified, ultimately inspired. And the foreword is written by the famous rapper Kevin Gates and his wife Drika Gates, who are the most wonderful, loving people. And I'm grateful to have them as friends.
Now, you mentioned before, by the time you were 21, you already had quite a story to tell. But what was your upbringing like? Where, when, how, who? Tell us whatever you'd like to tell us about your upbringing.
So I come from a Sicilian family who immigrated to Little Italy, Chicago, from Sicily, and my parents were young when they were unmarried, and my mom got pregnant, and then they had me, and then they did get married because my grandmother was never going to have it. You know, she's very old fashioned. So I lived with my parents, first at my grandma's house, and they had their own place. And my mother left at 5 years old. When I was 5 years old, my mother left, and then me to my father. And then his mother, my grandmother, raised myself and my little sister, Christina, who we call Cricky. And I grew up extremely spoiled. I think at the age of 5 years old, I learned the art of hustling because I was always a smart kid, and I would hear like all the old Italian ladies going, "Oh, Maria, those poor little girls," and that was kind of like I knew I could get whatever, a new doll, whatever, whatever. So I was raised. I don't blame my family for anything. Like I said, I was raised with a lot of love, but like I said, extremely spoiled, even more so than my little sister.
Now, in the rock culture, drugs went hand in hand with that. And you wrote very candidly, which I think will help many people. Drugs entered your life early on. How early on did they start, and how did it move on to some stronger drugs?
So I first got high at 9 years old. And so we lived in Little Italy. After my mom left, then me and my sister went back to Little Italy to live with my grandmother and my grandfather. He died early. Anyway, and then during the dismantling of Little Italy in Chicago for the University of Illinois, my family moved to Oak Park, which is a suburb just right on the border, west side border of Chicago. So at 9 years old, I don't know, I had a friend, Keith Norman, and we were kind of wild kids. And, I was kind of like a juvenile delinquent, I guess you would call it, but anyway, so his father was dying of cancer. And we both had this bright idea that, like, why don't we try some of these pills that my father has in the medicine cabinet? So we're like, all right, yeah, let's do it, So we popped some pills, and I didn't know what they were. Later found out they were morphine, but and we kind of liked the feeling, And then we started smoking weed, and 9-year-old kids, and this is an old school grocery chain, but national food store, and in Chicago. And at 9 years old, we were standing out front of the National Grocery Store in Oak Park. Hey, can you buy us a bottle of Boone's Farm or Night Train? And people were just going, okay. And so we were drinking, smoking weed, and popping pills. From 9, then by 10, I was still popping pills. We were hanging out in all the parks, and where all the like I came in at like the end of the hippie era, kind of like. It was still going on, but I was a little bit young for that. But I was born in 1958. Anyway, and so we would always hang in the parks, and then getting turned on to barbiturates, reds, blues, Tuinals, and the rest of them. And I loved them, and it was like, oh, I don't have to get drunk and feel sick. I could just pop these pills. So this was my mindset when I was young. And I know my family, my grandmother, when I would come home slurring and high, she would insist that I was drunk on whiskey. And I wasn't, you know, but she didn't know. But anyway, I truly believe, I can't imagine that anyone could have controlled me. I was that out of control. But anyway, as time went by, I started partying. I mean, I was going to concerts from probably 11 years old, you know. Every summer, my father thought it would be a good idea to send me, my grandma, and my little sister to Los Angeles, because my family, my aunt owned 3 homes there. So we would go every summer. But by the time I was 10, me and the neighbor girl figured out like where to buy weed, and we were smoking weed. And then like, oh, let's hitchhike to Sunset Boulevard where the cool people go. And we would stand in front of the Whiskey A Go-Go. At 10 years, I look at my grandchildren now and think, oh my God, you know. But 10 years old, standing in front of the Whiskey A Go-Go, cute little girls, you know, and then smoking weed. And so there was that. And then coming back to Chicago, and then this behavior went on and on. And at 17, while I was in Arizona visiting my best friend's older sister, I started heroin.
Now, you mentioned that you'd been hitchhiking and such. Tell us, let's see your thumb. Can I see your thumb? That's your thumb. Tell us a little bit about the hitchhiking institute.
Oh, yeah. So I was like the hitchhiker extraordinaire. So like I literally, people say I must not have been born with the fear factor, because even like, so this would be a typical hitchhike scene for me. So say getting out of school at 13 and with like my little jean skirt on and my little moccasin boots, tie-up boots, my jean jacket and my little backpack, and just think to myself, you know what? I want to go to Los Angeles, and just all by myself at that age. And then just go walk over to the expressway, put my thumb out, get a ride. I'm going to 80 West, hitchhike all down 80 West or 70, depending on my mood. Did I want to go through Colorado? You know, me and my girlfriend did it one time. By the time I was 15, I had hitchhiked across the country by myself countless times. And once we did get arrested. I was with a girlfriend, and we got arrested right outside of, actually in Georgetown, Colorado. We were on our way to California, but we thought we'd go that route so we can go through Utah and all that. So anyway, and so we got arrested. They called my grandma. I never got in trouble, you know, and my grandmother just sent an airfare, and they put us on a plane and sent us home. So sometimes I remember times where, you know, it was getting dark, and, you know, I'm in the middle of the desert of like New Mexico, and it's like, oh boy, you know. And I remember this one time, it was kind of like mountainy and curvy. Nope, like a car comes every 10 hours. And it was getting dark, and it was getting cool because it gets cold in the desert. And I remember, and I was probably like 14. I remember like thinking, okay, survival mode. Okay, because I watch a lot of TV, you know. And so I'm like, okay, so find a place, a little spot on this mountain where your back can be to the mountain. And then I just like sat Indian style with my little backpack, for really freezing, barely sleeping, because I was like, oh my God, rattlesnakes, I'm hearing coyotes, you know. And I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna die, you know. But anyway, and then the morning came, and thank God a car came. And you know, to be honest with you, God must have really been with me, because I could have been killed, kidnapped, raped. There was a close call once, but nothing happened. The guy said, "You're a big baby," and threw me out of his car, you know. So but God was definitely with me, because I could have been killed.
I concur that you kept the angels busy and they had their wings over you.
No. And my grandmother's prayers too, I think they really helped.
I concur. And can in the book you go on a little bit about your dad. Can I ask what he did, what his background was like?
So my family owns a famous hot dog stand, my uncle called Gene and Jude's. And so when I was growing up, it's like one of those, you know, big Chicago type, you know, the top of the line hot dog stand for hot dogs anyway. But anyway, so my Gene is my great uncle, my grandmother's brother, and my father ran the place for a million years. until he died. And but anyway, so growing up, my father really didn't come around that often. So let me be clear. My father loved us very much and did anything he could for me and my sister and my grandmother as far as money and all that. But he really wasn't father material. You know what I mean? Like, oh, hey, let's go to the park or let's go to, whatever. So he really wasn't that kind of a father, though he loved us. Aww. So my father would come definitely every Wednesday because he was off work on Wednesdays to bring cash to my grandmother to pay all the bills, right? And we lived in an apartment in Oak Park. And so my father, we didn't see him a whole lot. And he was a man of few words, if I could say it like that. You kind of had pull words out of him. He only spoke when necessary, kind of like type of guy. He grew up in Little Italy. He grew up with a lot of, as they would say, connected guys, but we don't look at it like that. I mean, they were just all friends and grew up together, and then all moved out mostly to the, near west suburbs. So, but my dad was my dad. I remember him coming sometimes, a surprise visit to the apartment at 3 a.m. with hot dogs. And you can't eat a Gene and Jude's hot dog if it's cold. So my grandmother would wake us up, knowing we got to go to school, and say, come on, Daddy's here. He's got hot dogs. And so me and my sister would get up and eat the hot dogs at 3 a.m. And then that would be my sister was a good girl, and she'd get up and go to school. But me, that was the door open. Now, it's not my fault. I can't wake up. I didn't get enough sleep. I'm not going to school. Call those people. Tell them whatever you tell them, So, but I love my father.
Now, is Gene and Jude's hot dogs still in existence?
Yes, it is. And now my cousin, my father's first cousin, Gene's son, is the sole proprietor.
Now, if I ever travel to Chicago, can I have some special hot dogs there?
Yeah. So you know what? It's crazy you asked that. I mean, yeah, if you ever come to Chicago, I'll definitely take you there.
I love hot dogs and beans. I cook it often.
Okay. Well, they only have hot dogs and tamales, and I think that's I don't know. Like there's lines around the building, even at 20 degrees. And I'm always, when I was in high school, I was like, so my first car my father bought me, I was like 17 and maybe barely 17. And it was a Porsche. And I would drive up like who I thought I was, like during break of school, and then pull up, like park crazy in the, in front of the place, leave the car running, run in, walk up. I need 40 hot dogs for my whole class, right? And then, and I'd get him, oh, and Daddy, by the way, I need a couple $100, and he'd give it to me. But anyway, so, but now, so that's what I was used to. Then I was dropped off the planet for a million years, and I come back. And so now it's a new generation, and there's like new workers or young, whatever, they don't know. And I was kind of like how people would describe it for all those years in a very traditional Sicilian family. I was only talked about in whispers through the family, And if somebody were to say, like my sister Cricky or Chris was the daughter, but other people would go, oh, Petey's got that daughter, the one that's on the SHIT, and they'd go, oh, yeah. Oh, I remember her, So, so now when I go in, I have to wait in the line, and so my sister, when she comes, I pick her up from the airport. She lives in Florida. When she went to the first place, Gene and Jude's, we go, I won't go in.
To Chicago, I have to wait online, even though, oh, brother.
No, I won't. Like I'm telling you, I call now. Look, do you know who Pete Bianco is? That's my father. I need this many hot dogs, and then I'll order them and I could just walk up and get them. But my sister she's real humble and not like me, like, kind of and she goes along with the program type girl. Right. And so I'll be waiting. The couple times I waited in the line, it was driving me nuts. And I was like, our father built this building. Why are we in the line? And then she'd be like, be quiet, you're embarrassing me. And then by the time we'd get to the counter, I'd go, okay, I can't take it anymore. Who's worked here the longest, and could I talk to them? And they'd come, and I'm like, okay, do you remember Petey had a daughter that was on the, And they'd go, oh yeah, yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm her. I'm not on the anymore. And I'm actually successful. And I understand. I don't mind paying for the hot dog, but I don't want to wait in the line, but it's never worked. So I just won't be in there. But don't worry, Bob, if you come, I'll definitely get you some good hot dogs because they are very famous and good.
Well, I look forward to that if I get to the great town of Chicago. And with
Yeah.
that, I hand over to my partner, Warren Brown.
Thanks, Bulldog. I appreciate it. Angelia, you were talking about hitchhiking through the desert, and it was very cold and all. I'm from the desert. I'm from Las Vegas, and I know it gets cold. And
Yeah.
what years was it that you were hitchhiking through?
Probably like 73, 74, 75.
Do you ever go through Las Vegas?
Yeah, I've been there in my new life even. I love Las Vegas.
I was just, maybe I saw you hitchhiking on the side of the road one
Well,
day.
actually, one time, so it's funny you say Las Vegas because that was my only vice I didn't have. I was never a gambler, right? Now, later in life, I reunited with my mother, you know, and I know you're going to probably ask me about that in a while. But anyway, but my mom and my aunts were living, her sister, in Vegas. So I went out there to visit them. And I had my little daughter, she was like a year old, with me. And my mom was like, okay, let's, another family member was watching my daughter. And my aunt and my mom and me, my mom was like, let's go to the casino. She was a gambler. And so I'm like, on the way there, I'm like, no, because I love nature and mountains. And I'm like, no, I want to go to Boulder Dam and I don't want to go to the casino. My mom was like, we're just going to go for a little while. So I'm standing over her as she's with the slot machines, and this is in the old days where actual money came out and you get the bucket, right? So my mom is getting mad because I'm like over her shoulder going, when are we going to go? When are we going to go? I want to go to Boulder Dam. And so she got mad at me. So she gives me a coin, 50-cent piece or something, whatever it was. And she said, here, put this in that machine over there. So very dramatically and very loudly, and everybody knew, my mother knew all my vices, I'm doing all this crazy stuff. So I made a big scene walking backwards to the machine. This machine, Mom? Okay, now I'm going to have another vice, Mother. Thank you. And I put the coin in and I pull it down and I go to walk away. My mother is looking like, and I'm like, what? Now I'm going to be a gambler. And she's like, no, turn around. And I hit and won $750. So all this money's coming out. She's like, I'm pulling my shirt. And she's like, get the bucket, because I don't know this stuff. So I got this bucket, all this money. So then, so to get to the point, I was hooked. I was like, woo, this is really cool, right? So then I left my mom at the slot machines, went with my aunt to the blackjack tables. In the beginning, I was very timid, like, what do I do next, Auntie? And she's like, hit once or twice, and she's telling me, right? So then she gets up, and I'm really not a big alcohol drinker, but this is back in the day where they brought you alcohol and cigarettes. So my aunt leaves the blackjack table. I stay. Now I kind of knew what to do, hit me or whatever. And so she leaves for about 30 minutes. She comes back. I'm not only winning, my legs are crossed, right? And I'm going, excuse me, can you bring me a Bailey's? Can you bring me a vodka gimlet and a pack of Newports, please? And then I was like, hit me. And the man next to me who was losing said, I don't believe this. She doesn't even know what she's doing and she's winning. So it was beginner's luck, But then my mother was ready to leave. And I stayed there like 12 hours. And my mom was like, what about Boulder Dam? And I'm like, do they have a casino there? And she's like, no. And I go, no, just leave me alone, Mom. And then she's like, what about your baby? I'm like, go take care of her. It was horrible. But that's my only experience with gambling. I got over it.
Okay. Yeah, my next question was about your mom. So if you don't mind, what was it like being raised without the love of your mother?
So I'm glad that's a good question because, so I was 5 years old when my mom left. And I later found out it was due to marital problems, right? But I don't know this at 5 years old. But a 5-year-old child, that's old enough that you've bonded with your mother. You know your mother. You remember everything, right? My little sister was only 1 year old, so she has no memory of that. So when she left in the middle of the night, I heard her, and I went down there, and we not down there. We lived in an apartment, so I came out of my bedroom and went to the back door and saw my mother. My mother was so beautiful, and she I have a photographic memory, so as I'm telling you, I could see it. And so she had this tweed coat on with fur, like 60s style, and her 2 suitcases and her gloves, and I was going, Mommy, no, please don't go. And she was like, I'm just going to go get your milk. I'm going out for milk for your breakfast. And somehow I knew she wasn't, I don't know. And I was like crying, going, Mommy, please don't leave, please don't leave. And she like peeled my hands off of her coat and left. Well, she didn't come. And so then the next day, my father had to call my grandmother, who came and got us. And so I didn't know what happened to my mother, and with Italian families, and you got to remember, this is the 60s. There wasn't counseling, or all that stuff wasn't happening with children, So I'm not going to lie, I was traumatized by that. And even being with my grandmother for a good amount of time, I'd stare out the window and go, I'm waiting for my mommy. I'm waiting for my mommy, But then it went to my grandmother. So I don't feel that I grew up without a mother's love. I grew up without a mother, but I had the love, unbelievable love of my grandmother, my Uncle Joey, my Aunt Louise. My father later married my stepmother, Pat, an angel of a woman. May she rest in peace. And so I grew up with a lot of love throughout all my family. So, and then later, I don't know, like maybe by 8th grade or something, my mom came back in our lives. But my father was being like, he would not let us see her. So my grandmother, being a good person, would sneak me. My sister was either like, I'll go or I won't go, because she had really no memory of her. But I wanted to see my mom. And so my grandmother would sneak me because my dad never came home. So she would say to my mother, her name was Margaret, and my grandma would say, Marge, come and get her. So she would, and bring me home. And by this time she was married and about to have a baby with her new husband. So then at some point, my grandmother, who really was the ruler of the family, the old Italian women, and she said, put her foot down and said, Petey, they want to see their mother. These girls need to know their mother. And from then on, we were all, together. I mean, like, we went there often. I did probably more than my sister. My mother had a girl, another daughter, and 2 sons. They're my half brothers and sisters, though we don't even look at it like that. We're like full, so. So I had a lot of love. Even though my mom wasn't there, I had motherly love.
Well, it's good that you found her later on in life.
I just want to add this last thing. When I changed my life around, so there's no better gift to give a mother than to give the mother her child back, right? And when I changed my life, and then it took some years and a lot of work to get my family to reunite with me, but my mother passed away in 2016. So I got to spend the last 5 years of her life with her, and her knowing that she doesn't have to worry about me. I'm not dead. She's not going to get a phone call. And more so being proud that her daughter finally turned it around after all those years against all odds.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of you myself for the stuff that you have accomplished. You went through a lot, and it's nice to see you're doing very well. You have 5 kids, if I'm not
yes, I do.
Correct. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
So my first child, so there are 5 children, 4 different baby fathers. My first child, Sean, who actually, well, he's born in Arizona. His father died when he was 2. But anyway, he lived with me till he was probably in about 7th grade. But mind you, in the beginning, so I was always on drugs and getting high, but I didn't completely lose touch. It takes a while. So in the beginning, we were really close, and like if I was going out, and then the punk rock scene came, and I was always at concerts. So my grandmother had him a lot. So my son Sean saw more during that time frame than any human being should see in a lifetime, right? His mother locked in a bathroom constantly, because I'm constantly getting high or seeing me passed out, sleeping late. Yeah, it's tough, right? So my heart goes out to Sean. We were very close now. And my son Sean and my son Anthony and my daughter Ashley all have children. So I am a really good grandmother, and they don't really know any difference because they were young when I changed my life. But so my second child is Ashley. And by the way, they're all doing great, and we're all reunited, and they're all successful and good kids, But Ashley was only with me till about 2 years old. So she would have no memory of me. And then during probably the good 10 months of those 2 years were a lot with my grandma. And then so my grandmother and my uncle Joe took care of her for some years. And then her father, my ex, we divorced. I did marry him, but we got divorced. But then he took her and raised her. And then at some point, I think she came back with my family when she was a teenager. But anyway, my third child, Christina, she was 4 days old. And by now we're talking, this is 1993. I'm really deep in this, like gone, lost my mind. And she was born with drugs in her system. Sean was not born with drugs in his system. Ashley, I was on the methadone program. She had drugs in her system and a little bit of cocaine because I took a hit of a rock a couple days before then. So I'm not it's terrible to do that. And I'm not proud of the things I've done, but I'm honest about them to hopefully stop others from making those bad choices. So my third child, she had a lot of drugs in her. I got high the whole time. And so I couldn't take her home, but my mom took her, and they agreed that I could live with my mother. Though when she was 4 days old, the drugs were calling my name very loud, and I left. I left her at 4 days old. And my sister Dina, my half sister from my mom's second husband, raised her and adopted her. Now then I had two more children, Anthony and Aaliyah. Anthony was born with heroin in his system. And again, my mom came to the rescue, and I went home with her, with Anthony, and kind of stayed around a couple months, but then left. And then my fifth child, Aaliyah, I got high in the beginning and thought, I'm not going to go through this. I'm going to stop. Went to a detox. I stopped. She was not born with drugs in her, and I was able to take her home from the hospital myself, right? But I was homeless. Well, to what life, right? So my mom kept the fourth child, Anthony, for about, I don't know, 5-6 months. And then it was getting too much. My mom, they're getting older, and they're like, she keeps having babies. What who's going to keep these kids, right? So thankfully, through Catholic Charities, my uncle knew somebody at Catholic Charities, and a wonderful couple who had other children wanted to adopt. And so they took Anthony as a foster child. And then I got pregnant right away with Aaliyah. Like, they're actually like Irish twins, they'd call it, But anyway, they're like 11 months apart or something. Anyway, so again, I got to take Aaliyah home with me, but I was still involved in criminal activity. So I got arrested, and a friend of mine was watching Aaliyah. And then anyway, that got the state involved. And then, to make a long story short, that same wonderful family that came to court, I signed my rights over to her, Myra, for both Anthony and Aaliyah, with tears in my eyes. And I said to her, Myra, if I ever change my life, will you let me see my children? And she said, absolutely. And they're a wonderful, God-loving family, right? So, and I'm so thankful to them, because when I did, they kept their word. And I'm grateful to everyone who took my children, because if they got lost to the state, I may not even know where they are now, right? And but I do want to say, because a lot of people, that may sound really cold, And a lot of people are like, oh, you chose drugs over your children. No, I made a choice at 9 years old. Do you allow your 9-year-old daughter to make a choice of what time to come home or what to wear to school, right? Or what you're going to eat for dinner? No, you don't do that, right? So I did make a choice at 9, and I made some more choices, and I kept making choices. But at some point, your mind gets rewired. You know, there's the whole scientific thing on this. And, you know, and then not only that, I was just so deep in the life, and I actually liked the life, you know. So each and every time that I had a child and had to give the child up, or knew that this was like, you can't take care of this kid, you've got to give this baby up. Where I know mothers that leave their babies at crack houses. I didn't do that. I left them at my family, right? So I'm not saying that's okay, but it hurt me. And I cried many nights throughout. Immediately afterwards, it was always like a knife in my stomach. Like, how could you do this? In the end, if I sobered up too much, I would start thinking about my children. And I would think to myself, what a horrible mother you are. And the guilt was so much that I had to keep myself extremely high and obliviated to all of it. Even the fact that I'm hurting my grandmother.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you had to go through all that. You said your kids are doing well now, though?
Yeah, they're all, yep. They're great. Good. I talk to them. Me and Aaliyah, that's like me and her, like that. She's 24. Me and her are like besties. We go to rap and hip hop concerts and blues concerts. Great. Yeah.
That's great. That's nice to hear. Earlier, we were talking about the pictures that are on your wall behind you.
Yeah.
You're into music. You have a strong bond with music. Can you tell us a little about that and the pictures behind you?
So, okay, I don't know if you can see them all. There's a lot. But so first of all, I get my love of music from my father. So my earliest memory, I remember my father always played music in the house, in our apartment. I'm talking about when I was before 5, you know, when I lived with him on an everyday basis. And then even after with my grandmother at Christmases, whatever, my father loved music, all music. So, but my earliest memory is when I was probably, I don't know if everybody can remember when they're 3.5 or 4, but I can. And my father came home with a 45, "Go away, little girl." And I think Bobby Darin, right, or something. So anyway, so my father like sat with me and put the record on, the 45, and he was singing. My dad loved to sing, you know, and so it was like, "Go away, little girl," you know. And so so that was like the first really song. And my mom liked music too, you know. I remember the first Led Zeppelin. This was later in life when like I was probably like 8 or 9 when my grandma was sneaking me there. She was washing dishes and she had the radio on. Now I know what the song was, you know, "A Whole Lot of Lovin'," Led Zeppelin, right? And this kind of goes into a long song, right? And so with all the different, you know, musical background stuff. And so I remember sitting there like, whoa, you know, and it was like on the radio. But anyway, but my real introduction to rock and roll, which my first love is rock and roll, and punk rock's the same thing. But anyway, my father came to our apartment one day and he said, "I have a gift for you." And I was like, "Of course you do." But I didn't say that. I was like, "Oh, thank you, Daddy." And so then, and he had a White Album, and I didn't know what it was. And he said, "This is a great album, and we're gonna listen to this." So we listened to it, and I liked it. And he gave me the White Album. And so I just want to show you, because I was a little girl. So the White Album, in my little girl mind, I thought it was plain and I needed to draw on it, right? So this is how my original White Album looks, okay? And this is the back with like flowers. And so where it was embossed in, I went over it in pen, though it is numbered, okay? And it has the albums are in mint condition, and it has the posters and the photos. So then my father came and saw that I did that. And he said, no.
You just wrote it.
Yeah, like, "You ruined it." "Oh, no." And I was like, "I think it looks cool, doesn't it, Daddy?" And he was like, he left the house. He didn't say a word. and he came back with another White Album. And he told me, never touch this album. So I didn't. And it is embossed. And here's the number, which is 236,600, which is, I guess, relatively low to 3 million, right? And so it's in perfect condition. And the actual, the Apple. So again, if I were offered $1 million, I would tell you no, I will die with these albums. So, but I'm glad that my father did that. But also because he was never home, though he had a bedroom. And I was always one of those inquisitive kids, and I would be in his bedroom looking at his things, whatever he had under the bed or in the corner or whatever. And so, and when he brought me the first Beatles album, he bought me a little phonograph that you open, like the little suitcase kind. So I started looking in his room and found albums of like Etta James and Sam Cooke. And so my thought, and Frank Sinatra, of course, the Rat Pack. But I was finding all these albums that I knew about Frank Sinatra, but I didn't know about Sam Cooke or, Etta James, Ella Fitzgerald, right? So I started playing them. And even at a young age, I was like, I dig this, I like this music. So I think that's why I have a wide variety. I love all music, so I like hip hop. I don't like all hip hop, but I like, a good amount. I like rap. I don't like all rap, but I like a good amount. I love jazz. I love all blues. I love just about all rock music, unless it's some really crazy, but, and punk rock. I was the punk rock, I always call myself the rock chick, but yeah, I was deep into the punk rock movement. And my wall is everything from original Ramones albums to, I've got a real rare I'm a huge, I don't know if you could see this. Can you see this?
No, you got to turn it a little bit more. There you go. Yeah, I can see a tongue.
Okay,
there. See the tongue.
Wait, can you see it? There you go. There. So I'm a huge Rolling Stones fan from a young age, and so I have a rare Rolling Stones album that actually didn't go on the, for purchase. It's when they're dressed in drag, and that's the album cover. But later that became a sleeve inside of another album. Right. So, and then I have on my autographed Patti Smith album, Horses, on my wall. And then my picture of me and Roger Daltrey, that when I went on tour with The Who. Of course, those hands. Can you see those hands?
Just barely, but I can see them, yeah.
But we all know those are Keith Richards' hands, right? I am a Keith girl, So, and like I said, all through high school, I went to every concert. I was constantly in concerts. And my sister, her godfather, they call him Danny D, was like the head of the security for Jam Production. Well, early on, like Concerts West, Jerry Weintraub Productions, then Jam, right? So, but I don't know, somehow they missed my sister. I don't know, but I knew. So I would call him or just show up at the stage door and go, Danny D is my godfather. Tell him his goddaughter is here. So I'd always get VIP stage passes, backstage, whatever, right? I was at a Who concert, and of course, I don't go anywhere if it's not VIP. So I'm backstage, and I went in the room where they have that, like the big room for this rock stars to go have food or whatever, all this bougie stuff, and nobody was there, and I was standing there. And I'm just like, wow, and then I hear somebody coming in, I turn around and it's Roger Daltrey. And I'm not a starstruck person. I don't get like that, but I'm not going to lie, with Roger Daltrey, I was starstruck because it was the 1975 Roger Daltrey, right? And he walks in by himself, and I barely could talk, it's like, wow, like this light of an angel coming through the door, So he walks over to the table, and I said, hey, and he was like, hey, and I said, do you want me to get you, do you drink, or do you want me to get you a Coke? And he goes, no, I don't drink any pop or soda, whatever he said. And I said, why? Like, this is like the best conversation I could come up with, because I was so starstruck. Why don't you drink pop? because it'll harm your throat. And then he was like, no. And then I said, well, what do you do to protect your throat? Like that's not the conversation they want to have, right? So I don't know. It was real weird. But anyway, so, and then I was like, are you drinking water? Well, I'm going to have a Perrier, you know, and it was kind of like real stupid. So anyway, then he walked out. So then I was like wandering around, and then some little other things, whatever, hanging out. And I knew some other people. And then Roger walked back out again. And there were all these paparazzis, you know, taking pictures. And so I was standing next to him, and then he put his arm around me. And so here comes the picture, right? I don't even know about the picture. So then a little while later, I meet Keith Moon. He says, hey, I got a limo outside, because this was at sound check, right? And he's like, hey, I got a limo outside. You want to go get high? And yeah, you're talking my language, you know? Yeah, let's go. So, so I leave with them. We go, he's drinking, we're popping barbiturates, you know, we come back. And he's like, hey, you want to go on tour with us? I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. And that was that. But anyway, I did have a job at the Chicago Board of Options Exchange, and then I called in sick. But anyway, and eventually lost my job because somebody saw me on the stage at the concert, because all of Chicago went to see the Who, right? So, but anyway, but it was some months later that I happened to be at the Chicago Board of Trade. And some short man comes up to me and says, hey, I have a picture of you. And I go, what? And he's like, I'm a professional photographer, and I photographed the Who. And I go, oh. And I'm like, so what do you have a picture of me for? And he's like, no, I have a picture of you and Roger Daltrey. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, can I buy a copy? And he was like, I'll give you a copy. Here's my card. And I called him, and I went there, and he gave me the copy. And that's how I have the picture.
Wow, that is awesome.
And I stayed with them for a while, but after, like, it was kind of like the highlight, being cool and being with Keith Moon, and he was a lot of fun, nice guy, funny as hell. And the thing is that, but then after a couple more cities, you meet the next starry-eyed groupie, you know, and now I'm on the tour bus, you know. But and then I actually had like about a year long distance on the phone, you know, talking. Like, I thought Roger Daltrey's brother-in-law was my boyfriend. We were like kind of like constantly talking. So I don't know. I've had a real crazy life. My book is the tip of the iceberg, believe me.
Oh, wow. That sounds very interesting. I'm going to hand it back to Bob, but I want to thank you very much for the chance to talk to you. I think you had an amazing life. I'm glad to see that you're doing very well. You got through all your troubles, and it's all behind you now.
It was a hard climb out, you know what? But yeah, a lot of people say, oh, I want to do what you do, or I want to, you know, I'm always like, okay, that's great, but it takes a lot of determination. You know, nobody handed me a life. Nobody said, here's a brand new car and here's a job. Like the job I started working for was Ceasefire when I changed my life around, which I think I could talk to Bob about that. I think he's got a question about that. So I'll wait.
Okay.
You can edit that part out.
That's all right. I thank you again. And here's the Bulldog.
And aren't I bossy? I'm bossy, right? You know, and edit that out. You know, I do that when I do documentaries. I'm like, stop, edit. You know, and they're always like, oh my God, where did she come from?
I'm in Baltimore, Maryland.
I love Be More.
Yeah, and Bob's in Florida.
Right. I've worked extensively in Baltimore and Sandtown, East Baltimore, you know, yeah, so I've worked extensively for violence prevention in those communities.
Wow, I didn't know that. I would have asked you a couple.
And I'm very, I knew Bodie Barksdale before he died, and then his nephew Tater, Dante Barksdale, who was unfortunately killed while trying to do violence prevention work last year, and he wrote a book called Growing Up Barksdale. And but I just like I didn't know Bodie well enough. I mean, I felt bad that he died, you know, but he was the kingpin, you know, Baltimore, as you know. And but Tater, as they call him, Tater, Dante Barksdale, the nephew, I was very close with him and did a lot of work with him. that was my trusted colleague. And when I got the news that he got shot, well, on the street, because it's not, you know, we're at risk, right, doing this work. But
Right.
man, I cried for days. I kept reading our recent texts and looking at his autographed book that he mailed me, you know, and yeah. So, but I love Baltimore, and I love the crabs. Oh my God, they're so good.
That's what we're known for.
Absolutely.
Old Bay seasoning and
Yeah.
crabs.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Bob, it's all yours.
You know, you'd spoken earlier about like your grandmother's prayers for you and such. In how your life has turned around, like, do you credit God for giving you that opportunity and the power maybe to make that change along with the work you put in?
Absolutely. I believe that God is using me to use my lived experience in order to help others not go, or who may be going down that road, or to help them get out or not go that way. But yes, I credit all glory to God. I thank God every day, multiple times, just driving down the street, I randomly, thank you, God, for my life. Sometimes I come to tears as I'm driving. Thank you, God. Like as I'm looking at the beauty of the Lake Michigan or some trees or something, like I never noticed any of that stuff for like 36 years because I was always too high and didn't care. Who cared, you know? So I am really eternally grateful to God and thank him all the time. I never ask God for anything. Um, I thank him, you know, I thank him. I don't, yeah, I'm not one of those like, God, I need help with the car payment or I need a new car. I don't want anything from God, but I'm not going to lie. I did make it. So when I was at Riot Fest this summer, I saw Patti Smith a couple months prior, but during the concert, we got a tornado, so they shut it down. So I had my Horses album. You know, I'm like, I have to get it signed, and I'm going to figure this out. So unfortunately, my sister's godfather's retired. I'm always like, ah. Anyway, so at Riot Fest, I was able to get VIP tickets, and I went to see Patti Smith with my co-author of my book, Linda Beckstrom. So anyway, so I have the album. And before I said, Linda, we got to get there early because we got to be like right front because I got to get this signed. So we're already there. Nobody's really there yet. And here's me out loud because, you know, I feel like God can hear us what we think, but out loud, he also. And I want they say that this is what I hear from my grandmother. Only God can hear your thoughts, but the devil can hear when you say things, right? So I wanted everybody to hear that I'm asking God for a favor now, right? So I'm like, God, I've never asked you for anything since I asked you to take the taste of the heroin and the streets from my mouth. And if you did that, I will forever help people. I've kept my part of the bargain, you know? And then I said, but God, I'm going to ask you now, please, God, please let Patti Smith sign my album. So such a horrible, like almost.
Now, there's a video of that, right? Can we use that on the show?
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Yeah, there is somebody videoed it, and I literally actually shut the whole concert down for 6 minutes because people were saying, yeah, she's probably not, even the security. I'm like, okay, but if I can get her attention, you know, and if, and then even people that were next to me like, yeah, she's probably not gonna, Patti Smith hardly signs anything. And so then I'm a don't take no for an answer kind of girl. So I'm like, well, maybe, but I'm still going to try. So I'm holding it up. I keep holding it up. Ah, Patti, I love you. And so then at one point, now there's probably 20,000 people there. So at one point, so a guy turns around and goes, hey, you were just on the Teletrons, the big things. And I go, what? And he goes, your album. So people way in the back were probably like, oh, look, a girl brought an album. No big deal, right? So then I finally get her attention. I'm like, Patti, sign my album in between any song. And she replied, oh, I'm working up here, like in a joking way. I'm trying to work up here. I haven't even been working. Do you think I'm going to just walk off the stage and come down there and sign it? And so then, because now she's talking about signing an album, the 20,000 people that saw that on the Teletron the whole crowd started going,
Wow.
Patty, sign her album, sign her album, sign. So finally, she's like, well, what am I going to walk down there? And I'm like, no, they'll bring it to you. I mean, it was like crazy. So at the end of it, they brought it to her. She signed it. They brought it back. I was like, I love you, Patty. And then it got quiet and I go, God bless you. And then she said, thank you. And I feel bad that you had to carry that thing around with you. And I said, no, I carry it to every concert. I love you, you know, and it was like so great. It was wonderful. So I don't know. God help me again. There you go. You know, small
I know that we're the hosts and like you tell the stories, but I have a quick Patti Smith story if you want.
Tell us.
I went to see Patti Smith, and she sang a song called "Dark Eyes" with Bob Dylan at the in New York City. So we went to see Patti alone, and you know, she can be quite the handful from the stage. It sounds sometimes like she has Tourette's. So I was in the audience, and I wanted to hear that song, so I was up front and I waited for like a quiet moment, and I just yelled out "Dark Eyes," and like she looked like she was gonna take somebody's head off. And I guess I looked pathetic, and she just looked at me and calmed down. But then she played something else. But in any event, at least she didn't yell at me with Tourette's from the stage.
Well, I could tell you when I told you a couple months prior to getting the album signed, I saw her at an outdoor venue, and a tornado happened, right? Or was about to happen. It was like one was sighted or something. So anyway, and it was outdoors. So anyhow, so I swear, this is what she was singing, Bob Dylan's "It's a Hard Rain." So she was just finishing up. It's a hard rain gonna come, or however it goes. And then all of a sudden the wind blew in, they whisked her off the stage. Everyone was like, evacuate the park, you know, and I was like, oh, what just happened? Like, no, my album, you know, but God helped me and I got it signed.
Well, that is pretty cool. But, you know, we've been talking a lot about what you've been through, but that turned around. And you've also received an award from Chicago for bravery. But could you tell us how when God turned everything around, he used that to help a lot of people that you really haven't talked about yet pretty extensively? And could you talk about how God has allowed you to work in the lives of many people?
Well, when I got out of prison, so my father died while I was in prison. And when I got the news, because my Aunt Louise was the only family member that actually didn't give up on me and continued to write me or send me pictures of my children, so I would at least know how they look and how they've grown and that kind of stuff. And so I knew my dad was sick. And this was in the early, he died on January 11th, 2011, 1-1-1-1-1. Now, I don't know, a lot of people don't believe this, but if you look that up and you see, there's been extensive studies done that the number one, or any number of the same in sequence, but especially the number one multiple times, means guardian angels are surrounding you. And so I always say, in my father's death, he gave me life. And through the grace of God. So when they gave me the news, I immediately started crying. Of course, it's my father, but it was more out of guilt. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh my God, it's a horrible person I am. And daughter, a counselor took my hand and said, I want you to take comfort that your father died peacefully with all his loved ones around him. I went back to my cell and replay it. Anything traumatized, you replay it, kept replaying it, right? And it occurred to me all of a sudden, I won't be afforded that privilege. I'm going to die in an alley of a drug overdose or a bullet, because I've been shot before. And I was involved in very high risk street activity and criminal activity. And I thought, I won't be if I die, will they even know who I belong to, right? So I kept thinking about this, and it was really making me nuts. And my cellie, my roommate, was a born again Christian. And she said, Bianca, have you ever prayed? That most people call me Bianca. And she said, Bianca, have you ever prayed? And I go, God doesn't have anything for me. Like, I wasn't one of those, like, you know, like if I wasn't true to it, I was like, now I'm going to ask you for something and I wasn't talking to you last week. You know, I'm not like that. So I said, God doesn't have anything for me. And she said, no, don't say that. And she said, why don't you try praying? And I go, Well, my only prayers before were, God, please let the dope man be there. God, please don't let me get arrested. Please let, stuff like that. And she said, she kept encouraging me to just, however way, just talk to God, right? So I thought about it. And one night I got on my knees with tears in my eyes, and I didn't really know how to pray. Like, I don't know. I mean, I knew our Father who art in heaven, because I went to Catholic school, but I said, God, if you will take the taste of the heroin and the streets from my mouth until my last dying breath, I will help people. So when I got out, I thought, let me try to make a go of this. I went to A Safe Haven Foundation in Chicago. I credit them for saving my life. There were many people. God put me in the right paths, right? But A Safe Haven was able to show me how to stay sober. But I had no job. So in an effort to keep my promise to God, I started going out randomly on the streets in the hoods, and talking to young people. And, I mean, they didn't know me, here's this older white woman, and I'm on the bus. I got to get off, stop the bus. And I'd get off and I'd walk up, and I have a good rapport with young people. So I don't know. I'm like, look, I'm not the police. I'm not the feds. I just want to talk to you, however I would say it, and kind of get them to laugh a little in a light way. Say, look, when you go to prison, and trust me, you will, if you don't listen what I'm saying or change your life, and then we'd laugh, So it happened that a program manager from a anti-violence group called Ceasefire in Chicago happened to see me many times and thought that was such an odd look. I had no idea who this woman was, right? So he pulled over one day, and the guys knew him. They were like, "Hey, J-Dub," his name is J.W. Hughes. And we're still in touch. And till this day, he has said, he claims he's been in a leadership role most of his life. And he said, I remain his best hire, because against all odds of everybody else saying, don't hire that girl, she's on parole, she's too old, she's too white, she's living in a halfway house, she just recently got out of prison, could relapse, whatever. He said, I see something in her, I'm going to hire her. But before that, I started volunteering. And so I was doing a full 40-hour week work for free, because my motivation was God. I was going to help people and help young people, and I found my niche. And then J.W. Hughes did hire me as a violence interrupter. And then I continuously, I got outreach worker, and then, kept going, learning more things. I went back to college. I got a bachelor degree. I really just wanted to start something and finish something, but I did get a bachelor degree from Northeastern Illinois University in inner city studies. And that was like a proud day after dropping out of high school, getting a GED in prison. But anyway, Ceasefire, there's no more Ceasefire in Chicago. And so now I continue to work with another organization in Chicago, wonderful, acclibusinc.org. And it's ACCLIBUS, which means elevating upward, right? The definition. And I do consultant work with them. And it really pleases me to still be involved in, helping others or staff. So I've dedicated my entire life. Like, people ask me, aren't you afraid you're going to grow old alone? No, I'm by myself a lot, but I'm never alone. I have the love of God. I have the love of people. I have the love of my family. Like, after sleeping on a prison floor, do you really think I feel alone in an apartment that's got all my rock history on the wall and my children's pictures are, no. So your answer, Bob, God has had everything to do with putting the right people on my path. And I am forever grateful, and I will never, ever back down on my promise to God.
And you also, something you said struck me, is like Jesus said, seek me first, and all these things will be added unto you. And you started working for him without a paycheck. And he certainly honored that promise in a big way. But even to stress it further, I mean, you've been in the street and you've pressed your hand down on someone who was shot in a shooting situation, and to try to save their life, you pressed down on their wound and put your own self in peril. So you've done some pretty incredible things. Would you want to tell that story?
Well, so what happened, I was, and the work I do, I don't do things for an award. There are, in the last 11 years, the majority of the stuff I do is in the dark when no one's watching, because I don't need accolades. I mean, like, I've won awards and got presented, and I'm truly honored. I was appointed a Goodwill Ambassador. I mean, through I Change Nations, through the United Nations. I mean, it's a great honor. I was given a honorary doctorate, right? And so, like, I would never put doctor in front of my name or PhD. Like, I didn't earn that, but it's a great honor. So I'm grateful for that. Don't get me wrong. And before I tell you the story, it was like almost hilarious that I was named 2017 Public Citizen of the Year in the state of Illinois. And I used to be public enemy #1. So it was like, what just happened? Thank you, Jesus, But anyway, so I was driving on a brutally cold morning to the county jail, Cook County Jail, to visit another individual who had been arrested. And it was a Sunday. I normally wouldn't have been in that area, but I believe God put me there. And got a call early. I went to the county jail to visit this individual, left the jail at about 11:30 a.m. I'm driving down California Avenue in Chicago, and on the way to the expressway, I'm at a red light. I got the music playing pretty loud, right? And so, as I always do, right? I think I was listening to the Rolling Stones. But anyway, so I'm not really paying attention. So I'm not hearing gunshots at first, right? But I see a car backing up to me. I'm like, what's going on? So I back up. I turn my radio or my music off, and I hear the gunshots. And the car in front, the car that was in front of me backed up and got away. I'm still there. The car in front of me are the shooters shooting into a group of young kids. One already dropped to the ground, right? And they're he's already been hit, but they're continuously shooting at him. And all I knew, I didn't think, probably not the smartest thing to do, but I went on the wrong side of the street and put my car in between the shooters, the bullets, and the kid. I didn't even know the kid. So my car would get the bullets and not the kid. So I kind of leaned back a little. I still could have got shot. Thank God I didn't. But I believe God wanted me there, because it was somewhere I would never be on a 12 noon on a Sunday, freezing cold, January. And so anyway, I waited. They ran. I got out of the car and I ran to the kid. I kneeled down. I had light colored jeans on. And, he was alert. He was trying to get up, and he was like bleeding everywhere. And I was like, no. And he looked to be like 14, 15. I was like, no, don't move, baby, don't move. Look at me. And then I saw a lot of blood coming from his groin. So I knew I had to stop that blood. Now, by now, my jeans have soaked up to my thighs, blood. My hands are full of blood. So I said to him, just stay still and look at me. And I go, this is going to hurt. And I'm sorry. I put my hands in his pants and I found the hole in his groin, because there was an artery, and it was just, and I put 4 fingers inside and pushed as hard as I could. And I stayed like that, like talking to him. And then slowly after that, the shooters were gone, people started coming back. And then I don't remember this, but I eventually got to meet him and the mom. And I guess the mom ran up and said, that's my son. We got it now. And she later told me in a joking way, you were like Lucifer, the way you looked at me, like a monster, like, no, I'm not letting go until the ambulance gets here, So she's like, okay. And then another girl was like, that's my cousin. And then I start crying, and it's just like, it was so dramatic. Well, when the paramedics came, they took but now my car is in the crime scene, right? So my car's in the tape of the crime scene. So they're marking the scene. So I asked the cop, because you can't, I'm full of blood. He says, he asked me, what did I see? I'm like, I saw a kid go down. I heard shots, saw shooters, all those kind of, look, I don't know nothing. I just wanted to save this kid's life. So I'm like, they go, you have to wait for the violent crime detectives. So I said, okay, can I wait in my car? He's like, yeah. So I sat there, lit a cigarette. I was like shaking. It was kind of like in shock. I was in shock. Well, when the detective got there, he knocked on the window and he said, "Can I sit in your car?" I sure. So he asked me to, did I see the shooters? No, I didn't, I just knew I had to, what I did. And he saw where my car was and bullet holes and stuff. And he said, I gave him my card. I said, I work for an anti-violence organization. And he said, he gave me his card. And so I said, I don't know this young boy, but, can you keep me posted if possible? I'm going to pray to God that he lives. So the detective said to me, you know what? That was very heroic. I would not have done that. He said, I have a gun, a bulletproof vest, and I would not have done what you did. And I just said, I didn't even think. I just knew I had to save that boy's life. So I went home, took a shower and was trying to come out, down from this whole, praying to God. I got a call from the detective and he said, I just wanted to give you some good news. The boy, who is 15 years old, just got out of surgery. He's going to make it. He's got a few more surgeries to go through, but he's going to make it. And the surgeon said if that woman had not have put that pressure on that groin, he would have bled out before the ambulance, because the ambulance took 10 to 12 minutes to get there and the body bleeds out before that. So he told me again. So he put me in for an accommodation. And so when the alderman called me to say the city of Chicago is honoring you for bravery, I was kind of like, no, I didn't do that for an award. I was almost offended, and and so I didn't want to go. And they were like, no, it's, and I said, no, but that looks like I'm doing something for attention. I just wanted to save the boy. And then Alderman Kappelman of the 46th Ward, who's a good friend of mine, he was close to me. So he had to talk me into it and say, it's this, you're going to come to City Hall. It's a big deal. And he said, look at it like this. The city that you love, your city, your Chicago, wants to honor you for saving a life. And I said, all right. And I went, and it was a really wonderful day. And I actually have it, I think I sent you a picture, but it's my resolution means a lot to me, and that the city acknowledged me. But that's not why I did it. I did it, but Bob, God had me there. You know that, right?
I know that. I have no doubt about it. God is good. And I know you know someone else who's pretty popular. Can you tell us about how you have a pipeline to Santa, and because of you, he provides toys for the homeless each and every Christmas?
Yeah. So first of all, every November, so this year is my 10th annual Christmas Gifts for Homeless Children from Santa Claus. And I do a little GoFundMe page on my Facebook page. And if anybody wants to follow me, it's just my name on everything, whatever, all of them, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. Anyway, so I do a GoFundMe page. I have other people that do actual fundraisers, parties at their homes, and bring a brand new unwrapped gift, a toy or something. But anyway, so it's funny because I make a list. I literally make a list, right? And I'm going to start this list for this year. I'll be out of town next week, but then when I come back, I'm going to start my list, right? So I literally go, now some of the kids are still in the same shelters from last year, so they remember me, so there's no problem. But then you got new kids in there, and I provide gifts for under bridges kids. Kids are living homeless on the street, right? So I have to not only convince these children that I'm good friends with Santa Claus, and maybe an older one will go, there's no Santa Claus. And then I take him to the side and go, okay, you're a little older, but if you want a gift, because we don't want to ruin it for the little children, do we? And then they'll laugh and say, okay, yeah, no, she really does know Santa Claus, So I make the list, and then I am relentless at fundraising and getting new toys. And when I get all my money, every dime, I don't even use a dime of it for gas or wrapping paper. That comes out of my pocket. Every penny donated goes directly for a toy for a child. And last year I serviced about 350 homeless children in Chicago. And through the grace of God has put this on my heart to do this for Christmas. And now I can't stop, right? So I do it every Christmas Eve. I know most people are with their families and people probably think I'm crazy, but I spend Christmas Day with my family. But on Christmas Eve, because by now, and I've got some helpers, one of my besties, Rose, who helps, and she's the best rapper. I'm a horrible rapper. Her presents look like they came from Macy's, but anyway, so we go through the list. So that way on every gift, and sometimes we have enough money to buy 2 gifts for a child, right? It's their name, like to Cheryl from Santa Claus. Everything's from Santa Claus. And so we bring them. Last year, because of the pandemic, we had to just drop the gifts off at each shelter. But this year we'll be able to go in because of masks and stuff. So we give them, we give the gifts out. We call their names. It's like a big to-do, and then, okay, Santa said he loves you guys and he can't make it. And, but he sent us to bring, we get these big red bags and we pull, oh, where's Thomas? Thomas, come on up, and then he gets his gift. And it's like I'm getting shivers right now thinking about it because it's such gratification. But I do always start out by saying, now let's all remember, this is really about Jesus's birthday, and the kids go, yes, so I always say that because I want to give thanks to God that, so it's not just like Santa Claus is giving gifts, but these gifts are an exchange in the original of because of Jesus's birth, that we're carrying on a tradition. So I do always tell the kids that, and I always say, so who are we going to thank? I'm so like a real ham, and they're like, thank you, God, thank you, Santa Claus. And so, yeah. But I do this is a really more visual one because I do the GoFundMe page once a year for this. But throughout the year with these children, I do back to school, school supplies, backpacks. I bring Easter baskets. I bring Valentine's. I bring stuff for the summer. I'm always stopping in. And it's a wonderful feeling to go, oh, there's Bianca. And they come running to me and I hold them. And you probably could see it on my face. I truly love these kids. I really love humanity. And I'm so glad that I'm able to be in a position. Yeah, I don't have much. I'm not living a high off the hog, but whatever, I don't need anything, I have gratification for giving back to humanity.
Well, what more can we add to that, especially at this time of the year and at this time on the earth where things can sometimes feel dark? What a great message of hope. So we thank you for that. And we'll put some links up. Warren is so good at that. He'll put some links up for the GoFundMe. And hold your book up one more time.
Okay, here. And I definitely will send you the Patti Smith video.
And we'll add that in too. And we have a tradition on the show. We close by singing the Beatles song, The End. Will you join us in that?
I will, absolutely. So, okay. Are we going to actually sing?
Well, we're going to attempt to. I think we're going to try.
Okay.
People run when I start singing.
All good. It's all good.
I am a Beatles fan. I love the Beatles. And before we close, but I never saw the Beatles, but I did see Wings. And then about 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I saw Paul McCartney and at Lollapalooza. And I was front row center, right? And so, it was an amazing concert for his age. It was just amazing, like 3-hour concert. But I have to say, there were young people. There were some people a little older than me that actually saw the Beatles. I've always listened to the Beatles. I listen to them every day, right? So, but when he played Hey Jude, I can never listen to that song again without getting shivers, right? Because just the whole scene of a live Hey Jude, and then the whole audience singing, the chorus, and what we don't have lighters anymore, but the phone, flashlight, and holding it up, and na 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 na. It's just like I can't listen to it the same. It's so amazing. I want to cry after seeing him play it live.
Well, if Paul hears that, I think he'll love it, and except for the part where you said at his age.
Yeah, don't say that. Yeah, cut that out.
My favorite part of his show was Live and Let Die. He
Oh
had
God, yes.
the big fireworks
Oh
and the
yeah,
lights and the
yes.
lasers and
The whole show. And when he played, what's the song? Get Back.
yeah.
So Alabama Shakes opened for him. And while he started playing that, he was like, "Hey, Brittany, come on out here." And Brittany came out with her guitar, and oh my God, Get Back. That was amazing. The whole entire concert. And I love the little Live and Let Die. The whole things were shooting up in the sky and fireworks and in Grant Park in Chicago. Paul McCartney, I gotta say, people were like, I don't know, like if I want to go. And there were some younger people that were actually went to Lollapalooza with me, but they decided to go see The Weeknd at that same time and another stage. So before they left, they were like in their late 20s. And I said, come here, let me tell you something about the Beatles. And they said, what? And I said, now take some advice from an old lady. Okay. I said, you will be able to see The Weeknd a million more times, but you may never get the chance to see Paul McCartney again. So I strongly advise that you come with me to the front of the stage and we watched Paul McCartney. And they're like, we're going to go to The Weeknd. Okay. So I went by myself, right? So afterward, well, I didn't see them until the next day, but like the Paul McCartney concert went on longer than The Weeknd. And the next day, one of the young guys called me and said, you know what? We all regret. We should have listened to you. And I said, I told you, you may never get the opportunity again. And they said The Weeknd came late. They left early. And we could hear Paul McCartney all the way from the other side of the park at another stage. And we were like, we should have listened to her, because that's exactly how I said. I go, hey, take it from an old lady. You're going to want to see an original Beatle, So
You were right.
as far as my work goes, doing violence prevention work and training on violence prevention and working with at-risk youth, that has allowed me, and I, again, thank God, has allowed me to be invited by other countries around the world. So from that crazy, horrible, bad choice life that I made for myself and climbed my way out of hell, right? Then all of a sudden, I've been to the Middle East. I've been to Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Morocco, Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sweden, all over South America, all through the United States, Mexico, through Canada. I mean, doing this work. And, and I've been able to meet wonderful people, diverse people, learn different cultures. And it's all, I want to keep saying this, but it's all glory to God, because he has put me in this position to be considered. I don't really even consider myself an expert, but people do, because I've been doing this a long time. And, with trainings and going out into the field with people in other cities or other countries, because they're doing this work. So I have been blessed to have since 2014, I have been blessed to have traveled to 6 of the 7 continents. And who would have ever thought that, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. Did your travels ever take you to Liverpool?
No, I haven't been to London. And I got to tell you, the pandemic has made me very upset. So I was booked already from November of 2019. I was already booked to go to London, to go inside their one of their juvenile facilities and to work just some trainings with some people, some organizations there. I was already booked for that. Then I had I was already supposed to be going with my friend Rose to Rome, then Naples, Cannes, France, Barcelona, Mallorca, and then back to Chicago. Now, so this is like, oh my God, my dream is to go to London. I just have to go to London. I can't die until I see Queen Anne's grave for some reason and buy a purse at Harrods, and meet the Queen. I've been curtsying all my life, practicing, right? So March 2020 comes, and by the 3rd week, all canceled, you know, so hopefully they'll kick back in, you know, hopefully.
Well, that's a shame.
Yeah. Well, it'll be okay. You know, it's just a setback. But, you know,
Right.
I believe that God has more work for me to do, and I'm willing to do it and ready to do it. And I want to save lives. And however way, whatever route we have to take to get a message to save a life, I'm great with that. And also one more thing, you know, sometimes this is a real the kind of work I do. First of all, it's not for the faint of heart, because we are in these, you know, target areas where shootings happen. So it's, you know, but more so, you might think, I've had people say like, well, but out of 25 kids, you only saved 3 or something. And I say, look, if I can only save 1 in my whole life, it's worth it. But here's the thing I realized after so many people saying that to me, hold on, you never know. There's a ripple effect. I might have said one thing to one kid who then said it to someone else, who then said it to someone else, who then changed their life. How would I ever know that? I don't know how far. Kindness is contagious, right? The love is contagious. More kindness, more love, more God. And I think that, you know, there's no instant gratification here. You know, you
Right.
sometimes think, what am I doing this for? You know, this is overwhelming. You know, I get overwhelmed. I'm only human, right? But I keep doing it and I'll never stop. And I know for a fact that kids have dropped out of sight for 2-3 years and I don't know what happened to them. And then out of the blue, they'll send me a messenger on Facebook. Hey, I just wanted to let you know that because this one kid, I helped him get a job as a bagger at a grocery store, a chain, Jewel. In Chicago, we say Jewels. But anyway, I got him a job as a bagger in Jewel. And that was, you know, he was trying to, you know, make better choices, right? So he was probably like 18, 19. So then, and shortly after, I don't see him anymore. Now, I don't know. Sometimes they get locked up in other states, or maybe he got shot, or I don't know. I don't see him, and I'm praying and hoping he's okay, right? So 3 years go by. Then I get a message from him telling me, I got promoted at Jewel, and then I got a job offer in the suburbs, because this was in the city, the initial job. And he said, I got a job offer to work as a manager at the Jewel in Schaumburg. So I took it, got an apartment here, met a girl, we're living together, and we had a son. And none of this would have been possible without you. And so I don't like to take all that credit. And I'm like, no, you did the work. You did the work, you know. But it warmed my heart. And that he said, I want you to come and meet my, well, I guess now they're married, but and my son, because I wouldn't have had them without your guidance, right? So I did do that. And one more quick one, I got a message from about a 17-year-old little girl, and after my book came out, and she said, I just want to say to you, you don't know me, and I'm from Florida. And she said, and my mother bought your book and asked me to read it. I read your book. It inspired me so much that I came clean with my parents, and I told them, I've been lying to you and stealing from you. I'm doing opiates. And she said, now I'm in an inpatient program in, I believe it was Iowa or Nebraska or something, but and we keep in touch to this day. And this was like 2 years ago, right? And she said, I just want to thank you. Then I replied to her, and she was like, oh my God, I can't believe you replied to me. And I'm like, wait, I'm not Kim Kardashian. I reply to everybody. You know, like I don't have people doing my social media. If you message me, and sometimes I've been on like Chicago news stations, right? The morning news or something. And I'll say that, you know, people, I get a lot of messages from mothers or kids or this one or that one. And I answer every message. And then later that night, when I get home, I'll be like, wow, I got 60 messages. And so I answer them all. And so many of them will be like, LOL, I saw you on TV this morning. I just wanted to see if you really answer your messages. So like, I answer all my messages. Yes, I do. They're like, oh, good job, you know? So That's kind of funny. But yeah, so you never know the ripple effect of what can happen by one sentence from the counselor telling me to take comfort. My father died peacefully with his loved ones, to me changing my life, to God providing pathways and people in my path. And here I am today, and I'll never change.
Amen.
And thank you so much.
Thank you. Made my day.
All right.
Yeah. So was this like a good interview for your rock and roll station? I mean,
Yes.
It's a good interview. I enjoyed it very much. Like I said, my wife does the work that a lot of programs that you have gone through. She does at her Helping Up mission. So it's the job of her lifetime, and she enjoys it. So
she helps people with things like that. I was struggling with.
She takes in the homeless and the druggies and all that, and they provide housing, food, clothes,
like
and
wraparound services,
and even jobs. They offer them jobs. They actually have a big complex, and they build houses and condominiums and all.
Yeah.
And they move these homeless people in, and they give them jobs. And their job is basically to take care of the house that they were given.
Yeah.
So to do the maintenance or whatever job that they were hired to do by helping out the mission. So
tell her I said God bless her, because that's how Safe Haven in Chicago was, where I paroled to. Without them, I would have never got like I was already sober, but they taught me how to stay sober, right?
That's exactly what they do. Yeah.
So and if you want to put this in there, you can edit this part in. I no longer think the way I once thought, so I no longer behave the way I once behaved, and that's key.
Yes, it is.
And then one more thing, I don't know if you allow this, but my shirt, Secure Cultures. So can I just say one thing about it?
Sure.
Okay, so, and because it's not really about me. I like to empower people and highlight others that are doing good things, right? That's why I was like, a Safe Haven or this one or that one, right? Or JW Hughes, wonderful person. But okay, so if you can, so my shirt, and I have says Secure Cultures, securecultures.com. This is an clothing store that was built by let me start over again. My shirt is Secure Cultures, securecultures.com. I want to give out a shout out to Tappy Cunningham, the CEO and owner. It's a clothing outlet, and you can go online and buy her clothes. She gives back to the community. She lives in North Carolina, Raleigh, and she also has a story. And was at the wrong place at the wrong time, did some time in prison, really was out of place there, kind of a good girl, college graduate, got out, had nothing. Now you got a felony, had trouble with people hiring her. She's African-American, and thought, you know what? I'm just going to build my own business. And so for years and years and years, a lot of hard work. And she's also a graphic designer and taught herself everything, took classes, and she's got wonderful gear, wonderful gear.
Me too. I taught myself graphic design myself.
Oh, yeah. So Taffy does graphic design. And if you head over to her website, securecultures.com, she's got a big Black Friday. I don't know if you want to put that in here, but Taffy, Secure Cultures is a big discount for Black Friday shopping online. And they have, I literally own everything in their inventory. I buy everything. Clearly, I've known her and met her in prison. We remain friends. She would give me things for free, but I don't believe in that. I believe in supporting other people, right? I believe in supporting, and especially small businesses and small Black-owned businesses. I want to empower people, right? So she has amazing quality, well sewn. I've had this shirt for probably 3 years, washed it a million times. It looks brand new, right? So I just want to give a shout out to Secure Cultures and Taffy Cunningham for wonderful products and wonderful graphic designs. And I was right, yes.
So you guys ready to sing? And in the end,
the love you take
is equal to the love you made.
Give peace a chance.
You got it. Good show, Angelina.
Excellent.
Thank you so
I thank you for this, and thank you for
Thank you.
talking with me and Bob. I
Yeah,
appreciate
Bob,
it.
thank you. And God bless you
you.
both. And
God
tell your
bless you.
wife.
This was awesome. Perfect for the time of year that we're into.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and we need real, and I'm glad at the, after we sang our little song that I said give peace a chance, because that is I've dedicated my life to giving peace a chance.
Yeah, it
That's a great
sounds
thing.
like it. More power to you.
Perfect.
Yeah, usually when people interview me, they say they could see it on my face when I talk about certain things I like light up, you know.
Yes,
So.
you do. I
Well,
agree
you
with
know,
that.
that's the glory of it, you know, of being selflessly doing something without asking for anything in return, right?
It's
And
nice to be
and
proud
God
of
blesses me in abundance because that's how I am, right? And you know, I'm really I'm most grateful to God for giving me my family back, my whole family, my children, my grandchildren, my Uncle Joey, my Aunt Louise, you know, my cousins. I mean, that is, I never thought I'd see them again.
right.
And sadly, I didn't get to see my father. But like I said, in my father's death, he gave me life.
Right.
Amen.
Man.
And remember, tell your wife, God bless her, and keep doing that wonderful work, because more people like her are needed.